Hi there, it's March the 8th, and we're continuing our progress through the Good News of Mark, and we're in chapter 14, reading from verses 1 to 21. So this chapter opens with the chief priests and the scribes, the leaders of the scribes, the religious police as it were, deciding that they have to get rid of Jesus. But they're worried about doing it at the feast that's coming up, the feast of Passover, in case they cause a riot. And if a riot happens, then the Romans get upset and there's all kinds of repercussions. So they're really plotting to destroy Jesus. Then we move to Bethany, and we have an occurrence here that Mark says happens in the house of Simon the leper. And here a woman comes and she breaks a whole container, an alabaster container of myrrh, of expensive ointment and perfume over Jesus. Now this ointment is very probably her dowry. It's a young woman having a possession like this probably would have been given it by her family against her marriage, to bring to her marriage, and also if anything happened to her husband, against her widowhood and old age. But this woman comes and she's so moved by Jesus that she breaks this alabaster box over him, and the perfume fills the whole house. And some of the disciples are really scandalized by this, because they say this actually is a waste, this is an extravagance, this could have been poured, this could have been sold and given to the poor. Now there's an interesting contrast here. So often in the church today we have this contrast between the focus on Jesus and the focus on worship, the focus on him, and the focus on justice, the focus on social action. And here are the disciples getting caught in this comparison that rather than pouring all this out in extravagance on the person of Jesus, we could have done so much good with this money. But Jesus is saying, leave her alone. She's done a good thing, a good work, he says in the original Greek. He says, leave her alone. She's actually preparing my body for burial, because she knows what's coming. She realizes the things that are unfolding even now in Jerusalem, which Mark has prefaced in this chapter. And he also says that wherever this woman's story is told, or wherever the story of the good news is told, this woman's story will be told, and the beautiful thing that she's done. And of course, still now, 2,000 years later, we are telling of this woman whose name Mark doesn't give us here, though other gospel writers describe her as Mary. But here we're not given her name, but she is remembered, the beautiful thing that she does. And then Jesus, as it's 2 days before Passover, Jesus sends a couple of his disciples to prepare the Passover place. And so he sends them into the city, and he tells them to look for a man carrying a jug of water on his head. Now, we might think that there must have been hundreds of men carrying jugs of water, but of course, most often it was women who were carrying the water. And here they're looking for a man, so the sign of a servant's heart in that sense. And he is going to show them a guest room, in Greek a katalima. He's going to take them to the place where they can prepare the Passover. Now, preparing Passover for Jews means cleansing the whole place and making sure there is no yeast, that there's nothing of yeast products, and they go through very elaborate rituals to make sure that the place is ritually clean. So that has to be done before the Passover can be eaten. But then Jesus comes with his disciples, and they gather for this Passover Seder, this Passover meal. And as they're sitting there, Jesus says to them, one of you is going to hand me over, one of you is going to betray me. And they're all filled with shock and awe. They say, Jesus, could it be me? Could it be me that's capable of doing it? And Jesus said, it's one of you who is dipping with me into the common pot here, and one of you will betray me. And it's going to be terrible for whoever does that. They're going to carry such a weight on their shoulders. We can see these things unfolding here for Jesus leading up to his cross. It's important to see that he's doing it in the context of the unfolding story of Israel. And so he is going to take the Passover, the key moment in Israel's story of deliverance and setting free as a nation, to be set free from the power of evil and to come through the Red Sea to meet with God at Sinai. And Jesus is going to be himself the picture of the Passover lamb. He's going to be the picture of the firstborn who is sacrificed, so that the people of Israel, the new people of Israel, can come through, as it were, the gates of death and into life eternal, which he frees them into. It's a wonderful picture, one which we still celebrate today as we break bread and as we share a cup each time we share communion. Have a very good March the 8th.